housekeeping before we begin. You may have noticed that I had to change the name and I changed the artwork and the icons on the channel. Main reason is because, well, there was already a company called Studio Phantasma. I looked them up, found out they existed before my YouTube channel was created, even though I created it in high school, and, well, I didn't want to deal with any of the potential copyright issues. I mean, they're like based in Europe. Germany, I think, is where they're based. They're a graphic design firm, and really the last thing I need to deal with is a lawsuit. So, since Phantasma means ghost in Spanish, I changed it to Studio Ghost. That's hopefully clears up that confusion. As for the changed icons and art and stuff, well, I'm currently in the process of designing a new logo for the channel, one that actually has some thought and basically communicates what the channel is actually about. And so really that's why you saw these sudden changes on the channel, is because I have to change the name for copyright reasons. And yeah, that out of the way, let's get on with this episode of Romney's Reviews. Now, this is one of those films I was cautious about going in. On the one hand, it had an interesting, albeit predictable premise, but on the other hand, its release date, well, they're trying to capitalize on what award season buzz they could muster, and given that the only real awards nom that they got was for Golden Globe for Best Dramatic Actress for Kate Winslet, that she didn't even win, it was a tad worrisome. I was basically going in expecting, well, it might be good, but it might also be Oscar bait fluff. And in some respects I was pleasantly surprised, and others not so much. The first thing I can say about the film is that it doesn't waste its time in getting to the inciting incident, or basically getting to the key part of the story where things take off. Mostly because I think the filmmakers realized that having an already long opening credit sequence was enough, and if they stretched it out any longer it would have been overkill. Another compliment I can give the film is that it's actually pretty well acted, at least by the main actors. I mean, Kate Winslet, Josh Brolin, and even Gatlin Griffith, who plays the 13-year-old son Henry, actually do a really good job in this film. They turn in some really good performances. The supporting cast, on the other hand, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, in the case of some of the other adult actors, like, I think Clark Gregson is his name, he plays Agent Coulson, some of the side actors, the faultiness of their performances could probably be attributed more to poor writing in the screenplay, but there were definitely some moments where some of the delivery of the lines needed work, especially with the other key child actor in the film, Bridget Fleming. Just the way she delivered lines. I understand, yeah, child actors, not necessarily known for giving good performances, but they really needed to do another take. Or if that was the best take they had, Now, this film has some pretty creative moments, especially when it comes to how it kind of delivers certain flashbacks, because it kind of delivers flashbacks explaining the past of Josh Brolin's character. Does it in kind of a creative way. First, it's kind of confusing, but then when you catch on, it's actually pretty creative, because it doesn't do the whole ripple, ripple, ripple sort of thing, and it doesn't dominate those flashbacks with voiceover, and so it was kind of creative how those were presented, kind of added a nice layer of mystery, even if it did take a while for you to realize that the character was Josh Brolin's character, since the actor they had playing the younger version didn't really look like Josh Brolin, but as the character got older in the flashbacks, you could kind of sort of tell. And so that was one point where it was creative, but what really hampers the whole experience is it kind of relies too much on voiceover narration. I mean, the bookending narrations with Tobey Maguire playing the grown-up Henry kind of worked, but it was kind of a case of where they had stuff at the beginning, at the end, but then throughout the middle they had it kind of come in and out, and it was just the case there was no like set rhythm to it, and it just got a little bit distracting. Then there was another particular flashback scene, and although it was executed a little bit better as it was the character actually like, talking to someone and explaining things, it was still kind of a case of they could have shown some of the stuff visually. It may have meant having to switch around the events of the book, but it would have at least worked better visually if they found a way to not rely on the voiceover as much. The criticism in regards to the voiceover is especially applicable to what I feel is a forced yet still underdeveloped exploration of puberty. I mean, they try to kind of allude to it at the beginning, but then the whole like exploration of it disappears for a while throughout most of the film, only to suddenly come back out of nowhere. And even when it comes back, it's not really addressed or brought up in any really significant way. It basically is just kind of a, oh yeah, going through puberty. I mean, at the start, if that was like an underlying theme and that they kept going throughout the entire film, it could have worked. But the fact that it kind of just dropped off and then tried to kind of surface again to emphasize some sort of importance, it felt kind of You either needed more development or needed to be taken out. Overall, the film has its moments, but it's not perfect. While it doesn't entirely suffer from the pacing issues that films based on books tend to suffer, it did suffer in the fact that it was trying to juggle too many of the main underlying themes of the story and didn't really do a good job of actually conveying a lot of them. I mean, it has some good moments, it has some really good acting moments, but it just kind of stumbled in a few places. If you're at home bored and the film happens to come on TV, then there's no real harm in watching it, because I mean, if you're watching it on TV as you're just killing time, then yeah, it's an enjoyable film to watch. But as a theatrical release, I wouldn't recommend it. I'd say just skip it, watch some of the other awards contender films that have come out in theaters, because compared to this film, a lot of the other ones that have come out or are coming out are a little bit better in comparison. At least that's my opinion. That said, I give Labor Day a 3.5 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. As for next week, I'll be taking a look at Monuments Men. But if there's any films coming out later in the year that you want me to take a look at, put them in the comments below and I'll see if I'll fit them into my schedule. But other than that, I'll see you next time.